Next podcast with Chris and Todd.
We are in our second edition, and I'm excited. This is going to be good. We're talking with Katy and Kelly, and again, this is Hot Toddy. So always great to have him.
Do we have to call him that, or can we just say Todd?
No.
Okay.
But it's funny.
But it is starting to stick with other people. It's kind of weird.
People
but,
came up to me this last week. He goes, I got to bump into Hot Toddy this week.
You're wearing a sweater, so maybe you're warm, so it
Thank you.
fits a
It's
little
awesome.
bit, right?
Yes, well,
okay.
I think it speaks for itself. So we're here, and we're just in this conversation about service.
Turn the conversation, Chris.
Let's make that left-hand turn, NASCAR style, right into conversation about serving. And you guys were so great at kind of giving a why. A couple of things we want to just lay the groundwork for as we start this conversation. Saturday Serve is the second Saturday. Mm-hmm. We meet at West 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
And 8 o'clock, come for some breakfast. Or
8:30.
I mean, if you want to be there to help.
We would give you a job. Yeah, you could help set up or check
Definitely.
in.
You can get the pre-Saturday service fix
Yes.
at 8 o'clock.
Maybe even an early breakfast.
Ooh, there you go. Or come at 8:30 and have some breakfast, and then we just kind of have a rundown. And then also, we just gave out Save the Dates this last week.
Yes.
For Love Your Neighbor. And we've got June 11th through 17.
Yep.
Put it on your refrigerator. Put it in your phone. Don't go out of town. Be here.
It's our
Staple
missions
it into your
trip to our
paper
community.
planner.
That's right.
Yes.
It's awesome.
We're already having conversations with planning and excited about those different things where God's going to open doors that we're going to be able to walk through to be able to serve our city and our region, and excited about what that's going to look like.
And those are kind of, you talked about it, Katy, last time. It's like those are good on-ramps for people.
Super good
like,
on-ramps. Low commitment.
Yes.
But high, I would say, return on investment of time. And we say a lot, you're connecting with other people, and it's super easy. Because you're serving and talking together, so it's easy. But then it's again that practice of putting feet to your faith, like having an opportunity to just.
I tell people, do things where you can always make the church feel a little bit smaller.
Yes.
If you do that, you start to feel like, this is easier to connect in these environments. And I think Saturday Serve is a great one of those. Love Your Neighbor is that, even on steroids for a week, but it's also really
still
well
in
done.
small groups of serving.
Still in small.
Yep. So you leave knowing somebody.
Yeah.
Yes.
And hopefully feeling like you got to make a difference. And whether you feel it or not, you did. So we're pumped about that. But
Yeah, and there's such a variety of just those different things. And I think that's the beautiful part about serving is just the ability to have variety and make impact and engage in different areas that can be powerful. So
even for kids. And I think we have an incredible Next Gen ministry that already does that. A lot of the kids that are serving on the weekends are kids that are part of the Next Gen ministry also. But we try to do where anybody, any age, any skill level, from kid friendly to construction, we really try to build opportunities around where anybody and everybody can find a place to serve.
I would say Jordan has my youngest has caught fire. She just
I love seeing her.
She wants to come, but it also spurred her to want to serve on Sunday mornings as well.
Awesome.
So now she's a junior helper. So she
good.
really has found just this really fun niche of being a part of that, and she's enjoying it a lot.
She probably could lead an activity or two in the next few Saturday serves, I think, even. So
we did have a group of youth guys making fleece blankets.
I watched that.
And I mean, there are some things we might want to vet them out for just a little bit. But it was all good.
Painting and fleece blankets are the top two.
Yeah.
I think you resonate a lot of like junior high moms right here. There's some things we could let them out for.
Right. It was good. And they were made with love.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
And they'll be warm.
No.
They're blankets. We'll call them that.
It's all good. It was fun.
I didn't.
They had a
touch
good
those
community
intentionally.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Good.
cool.
Well, with this one, we'll kind of switch a little bit into the global conversation of this. But before I dive into it, I just would love to hear, would you guys, as you guys are navigating so many people within our church and having them take the steps, would it be wise, as they listen to this global conversation, start locally and then go global? Or where do you guys land on that?
I would actually, I think it depends, because there are a lot of people, almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody that comes to us and is starting to serve is either already serving somewhere in the church, or they're on their way there. In fact, in the next few Saturday serves, we'll actually be inviting people who aren't to jump in. But we kind of have, there's some duplicity because they're often already on a team, but they're also, kind of learning and growing in that way. I would say for most people locally, getting involved locally is a really good idea, just because you want to know where you live before you go somewhere else. But I also think that there are people that the Lord has very clearly put a passion for a specific place or people group. And so it's not necessarily bypassing. In everything that we do as we prepare to go global, the goal is always to go and be good stewards of that while we're away, but to bring that home and to make home better. But I do think there are people who the Lord is just specifically called to a place.
I think people probably need to assess their own walk, their own faith, and where they are too. Because serving globally, you're more than likely to feel isolated and more dependent on God, because you're going to be out of your comfort zone. And so, if you're not there yet, that might not.
And I've led so many trips, just in the fun conversations that come out of those moments when somebody looks at you and says, I thought I was going to give a lot, and then they go, but I got so much more in return. And I think, you can have that conversation before somebody goes, but it really is hard to wrap your mind around that 100%. Idea of like going somewhere and being like, I'm going to go save the world. And I want people to be like that too, but I also want them to be willing to listen to the conversation. Like, hey, you're going there to serve, and we are just coming alongside those. We talked about it at West this week in our time. We want to make it better than when we got there, and that is making the people that are already ministering there make them look better and serving them. And that's
absolutely
really
that's
so
why we love to
important.
go through local churches too. But I also think one, if you're living in a place and it frustrates you, the problems here frustrate you, the people here frustrate you, we naturally look for where else can we go, and not even for travel, just to be traveling. But I think there's a legitimate. We're just people, and people want to look at something else. And so one of the elements within our training for global outreach, global mission trips, is actually an element of working through financially, or even just the season of life that you're in. We're also going to provide you some local options where you can serve in a global way, but you're going to do it here because it may just not be a good time for you. So just consistently reminding people that they go hand in hand, and one is not better than the other.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you want them to kind of share kind of like what we're looking at for? I know we shared at our locations, but if you didn't make it this weekend, what's kind of coming up and the global connection that we have?
Yeah, I think I'd love to hear more of like, why do you guys pick, like what we did was local, but why do we pick the places that we're going to? What kind of is your mindset when it comes to the global outreach as a church? I know it's a big umbrella, but I think it's important for us to understand as a church, why do we pick what we do and what are we doing? Those two, I think, would be big questions to answer.
Okay, so we'll start with our partners. Okay. And then we'll go to because COVID, there's a few elements. Right before COVID, did you guys hear about COVID? Do you know that was a thing?
Just a little bit.
So before COVID, when we pick partnerships, it's really parallel with the way we do it locally. We say, what's going on in the world? Where are organizations and ministries that are running towards and meeting needs in ways that are reflecting the Lord and magnifying the Lord? And so let's get in with those. The difference between local and global is here we will have an entity for food insecurity and an entity for homelessness and an entity for transportation. They're all a comprehensive. It's a comprehensive strategy globally, which works really well because they're mobilizing in communities that don't have the option of having all of those separate things. So we really just look at what's a good fit. There are a few things that one of the things that we do that we don't do locally because it's already here is Illuminations, which is an organization that translates the Bible into every language on the planet, which is a really big deal for us as a church. Is we We won't necessarily be going into those communities and delivering the Bibles. There may be a day where we get to do that, and it would be amazing. But what matters to us, or what should matter to us as a church, and getting the Bible into every person's hand on the planet matters. So that's one of our organizations. And then we have Rooted Partners, and Kelly can talk a little bit more to this one, but it's where is a place that we can go and likely have a long-term partnership. We actually just sunset some of those partnerships right before COVID because the goal is not to be in a community until the end of time. We want to push it forward, but it should never be something that relies on us. We want to help empower them and encourage them, and then cheer for them when they're able to take care of things on their own.
Do you feel like that's a switch too with global and local? Because local, you can be like, hey, we're here. Like we're going to be here. Global, it's like, we're not.
No, well, and so a lot of the leadership structure matters a lot, and also there's a lot more trust involved globally because we just can't be there. So relying on the people to be just good stewards, and it's our responsibility to vet.
Transparency.
Because we take very seriously the tithes and offerings that we have the responsibility of stewarding, and so there's a lot of interaction that happens. And a lot of really hard conversations that happen on a global front that we don't have necessarily the relational equity that we would have locally to say, hey, so you said you were going to do this and it's not happening. So can we work through that? Globally, it's a little different. And we're really thankful that doesn't have to happen a lot, that evidence of fruit and all of that. But we had some partnerships that were sunsetting because those communities were thriving and ready to go. And so when everything shut down, it was actually a good incubator time, I would say, for us to go, all right, so what do we want to do? And the Rooted Partner is with World Hope, and I want you to talk about that, but I'll go to the other side of it, which is Convoy of Hope. And we chose them because they're a partner that is everywhere. They do work domestically and internationally in all kinds of ways, but a lot of it is disaster relief response, where when there are earthquakes or hurricanes, they're going, and they're not just going with supplies, they're going bringing the word of God with them.
With hope.
And ministering with hope.
Convoy.
Bringing the convoy
of hope.
You wanted to go down the convoy route. We got it. Anyway, sorry.
Is there a song?
There
Should we
is.
sing it?
Oh, man.
He's got a song.
I've got a
Let's sing. No? Okay. So the goal, though, is really parallel. Like, where are the needs? And how can we not just throw pebbles? How can we, like, boulders towards these things? And it's really great. Knowing, though, that globally, the likelihood of everybody getting to be involved is decently minimal. Specifically, we have some long-term missionaries that we support. Most of them are in the Middle East. We can't often even say where they are for their safety. Most Fountain Springers will never go over there, but it matters to us that Jesus gets shared there and relationships are developed in his name. And so we will support missionaries that are going. It's so the heart behind it is actually fairly identical to local. It just looks different in the way that it's walked out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about World Hope, though, and Enable the Children?
Sure. So we are partnering, one of our Rooted partners is World Hope. And they have a kind of subset is Enable the Children. So they are based out of Sierra Leone, Africa. It's on the west coast of Africa. And their mission, they do child sponsorship, but they are really, I guess, focusing on children and families who have disabilities. Kind of backing up to some of the root cause that World Hope is working on is clean water, which we see a lot around the world. But there is a higher number of kiddos with cerebral palsy and autism and some other specific disabilities in that area that probably are from not having clean water. But Enable the Children is an organization that they have physical and occupational therapists that actually go into the homes of the families to do the therapy. And the reason why they go to the families and not bringing the kids out is because in that culture, the kids are still sought as demon possessed. And so they have absolutely no value. And that goes on to the family. So the family has even a hard time going to the local market and coming out. So I think their organization is probably trying to help twofold, trying to show people they are not demon possessed and they have worth and value. And they've done some of those events, local events. They have a big beach event annually in March, and they've actually have changed some of the political outview. There's a lot of leaders, even countrywide leaders, that are coming in and seeing, okay, this is okay. But again, what we'll be doing is we'll be going with the therapist into the homes and helping with the kiddos, doing some of the therapy. Now, a lot of it is just play therapy, showing them how to eat or stand or sit on their own. We'll be visiting with some carpenters who make some therapeutic devices. And then, we have here very, very high-tech physical therapy devices. And theirs are, mostly wooden, just straightforward. But they've been doing this for so long, they are seeing that kids are just, instead of, just lying on the floor doing nothing, are learning to walk, or they're able to go to school and become, wonderful citizens in their culture. And so we'll be doing that. We'll also be kind of how Katy has alluded to several times, taking care of the staff because they work nonstop. They don't get the luxury of going out to eat or, they work nonstop. There's not a lot of them and they work tirelessly. So we will probably try to do some sort of retreat day or two for the staff there.
Yeah, it's crazy going into different cultures, just a couple that I've been in, and just watching that scenario, like whether in, Central Asia or just in the Baltics, and just watching that same similar scenario that plays out, and whether it's a heightened awareness that we have or just our attention to focus on those scenarios is not what it is in anywhere else in the world. But it's cool watching when a door opens for churches to begin to have those conversations of what part can we play. And that's the beauty of the church, is this reality that there are so many people that are passionate about things that can help in this conversation and help move the ball down the field to say, oh, man, I connect with that. Like I had a conversation just over text the other day, and one of my friends, she's like, I can't wait to go on one of these trips. Do I have to go to all the meetings? I said, no, if you were listening, you have to go to one informational meeting, then there'll be team meetings. But it's also fun to watch the long history that has gone in. I mean, I've watched Sierra Leone for a long time, and just the cool stories, the amazing God stories that have come out of this long before we even come to this place, and going, wow, God is doing some cool stuff. But it's also tough because you're like, man, I want us to be here, and we're still here. Hold on, just be patient. God's doing this, and the cool part that people from Fountain Springs are going to be a part of that story is amazing. So
and I would say, so Safe and Healthy Kids, it's a fit in that way, but they're also rooted in a community. So it's community development from the inside out that we get to just come in and again help push forward, because I think when people know that they're seen and valued, whether they're the staff working or the parents who are striving so hard to help remember that their children matter and go day to day working just in the reality of their life, or the kids even going, people, I matter to people.
Absolutely.
So the other trip that we're taking that we've got tied down is a kind of a fun story, because we were looking for a domestic trip also. It's been a few years since we've sent teams. And so easing back into it, Africa it's going to be an incredible opportunity to really work and deepen our understanding, I think, of just even how God sees us. And I'm so excited about it. But we wanted a domestic option too. So the other one is on the Navajo Reservation in Black Mesa, Arizona. And it is with an organization called Experience Mission, which is actually not one of our rooted partners. But we don't partner with an organization just based on whether or not we can have trips. It's a huge plus. But if they're doing really good work and we feel like that's a good stewardship move, then we'll go with them. Experience Mission is a mobilization organization, though, that helps people find good fits just wherever they want to go. So what we love about this one is, one, we live within close proximity of reservations. But sometimes when you live close to reservations or places, the accessibility and opportunities might not be there as well. And some of that is just because there's been a lot of experiences that people there have had where maybe they say, you know, if you're a neighbor, that might not be a good idea to come. There's the proximity limit stuff. And so I think just to say, let's be learners of what this life is like from afar, from somewhere farther away. It might open up some doors. But also we partner with an organization under our Safe and Healthy Kids banner locally called Naomi's House. It is essentially an in-house foster care for kids on the Pine Ridge Reservation, and it's brand new. It's just starting. But their initial house is on the Navajo Reservation. So that's what drew us there, because we thought, gosh, if we can go learn from the place where it started and get to see and connect, that means that we have all of that information and knowledge to be able to be open-handed and walk with the one that's just starting locally in an informed way and having some experience. So we'll be going and partnering with local churches, which is our favorite thing to do. We want to help the body of Christ. Again, know that they're seen and they're valued, but then also like rolling up our sleeves and what can we do to help? And so really excited. Maybe more accessible for people because of distance and time. But the goal is, and we just had a training meeting last night, and you get to learn a lot about yourself when you're walking through. Like, what do I bring to a team? What do I need from my team? So a lot of just reflection questions too, because the preparation piece is really important when we come home.
Vital.
That reentry is also important, because whether you're going to Children's Home Society during Love Week to serve for a day, or you're going for a week and a half, there's some processing that needs to happen. And so we just try to be really intentional about the way that we do that, and remind people that what happened in Africa, God's doing work here too, and wants to use you for that too. So some of it is just kind of waking ourselves up and going, oh yeah, I can get out of my rhythm and really honor the Lord in the way that I'm invested every day.
Well,
Sometimes it takes getting out, though.
It does. It does take getting out. Well, and then sometimes it just takes different voices too, saying the same thing.
Yes.
Right.
But I mean, even our students are going on a trip
Costa Rica.
to Costa Rica, and last year they went to Alaska. They had a little buy-in. This year, really saw almost their numbers double, a little more than double, and so that's exciting. Just looking forward to the reality of what that's going to do. One, to just build excitement in their world vision and their ability to see things more globally, but also, man, serving and finding that life is so much bigger than what they see in front of them, whether it's a phone or a screen. Like, man, people live in such a way that that it, one, better appreciation, but two, God is at work. I mean, God is mightily at work in Costa Rica and other places that you go, and it's fun for them to connect in that way and watch their faith just blossom in such a powerful way. Which I'm looking forward to hearing about and seeing. So
I think a lot of people's initial, like, I would say most people would say a camp or a mission trip was like a launch pad for their faith. And I actually would contend that it's not because of the work that they did or even where they went. It's that they reframed the way that they were thinking. And I think we're people, so we sometimes just need that kick.
I also think anytime you put yourself in a spiritual environment that is bent towards, it's not the normal work week, it's not the normal family, all that kind of stuff. It is, we're going to do things differently, and this is about what God wants. I go, God usually speaks in those moments. Not usually. I think I've seen it all the time. And so those
sometimes
are
not in the way you want it to.
You're right. Sometimes you're like, I wasn't expecting this. But that brings me, this kind of last question that I had for you guys is, we've talked through locals, we've talked through global. I've seen it in churches before to where sometimes it's the thing that gets idolized, the social justice or and I'm not saying, hear me, please, like, I believe God wants these things to happen. God is about these things. But at the foremost and the critical thing for humanity is to be reminded, God is first. And so as you guys have led local and global, I know there is conversations. I know there is temptations in this to kind of make it about something else. So how do you help? Because I heard it, like there's trainings, there's all those things. As people re-enter, especially from a global mission trip, it's reminding them, hey, hold on. Remember what this is about. As you guys have navigated those conversations, what have you seen become obstacles in some of this? And how have you guys, as you led teams, all that kind of stuff, help people see, stay on this road. God is first in all this, even for yourselves.
Yeah. We probably both have answers to this question. Do you want to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think about this a lot because I think even for me personally, my first mission trip was to Africa. We were building houses. And I remember thinking I've reached the pinnacle. I think a lot of times there are students that graduate from high school and go to a mission like YWAM.
Yeah.
And they experience mountaintop moments when they're 18 and 19. And then they come home and they're like, well, what now?
Yeah.
And I think we all have that where there's some spiritual fatigue because we've seen the mountaintop. So now, like, well, now what's even? And I think, again, it goes back to, we talk a lot, specifically locally, but we'll start doing it even more globally. We are not the provider. We are here on behalf of the provider to point you to him.
Yeah.
And that's not a normal thought, I think, for flesh to think.
It's not.
And so
we would like to be the solution.
Right. Like it feels good to help somebody, but remembering that we're doing it on behalf of the Lord. We are not the Lord. And I think the only antidote to that is time in the Word and community with other people, and a connection to the Lord through prayer and all of those other things. Because I think it's the accountability of remembering that this is not because of us or for us. It's the privilege of getting to be part of it. But I think reminding ourselves all of those things is really important. But that's why reentry and stuff is a big deal. But I also think anytime there's something that is really like a place where we would put a mile marker down in our faith, we want to go back to that all the time. And it's like high school football when you're like, hey, remember when we won that championship, guys? You're still wearing your letter jacket and you're 80 years old. And they're like, didn't you have other good wins in your life? Why are we still talking about that one? And I think I'm just kidding. It's our responsibility, but also the opportunity of the people in our lives to help us remember, one, stay rooted in the Word, stay connected to the Lord in prayer, and be with other people that will help you walk that out. But also, it's again the application because just like knowing the Word so much but never applying it is you're missing out. Yeah. I also think having that experience and then staying there, man, you're just missing out. Yeah, and the Lord will let you stay there. Yeah. I mean, like if you go, nope, I'm not doing anything else. But man, what a world it would be if you then go pull other people and go, I had this experience in Sierra Leone and my life has changed, and I want you to experience, even if you don't go over there. But I think it's the application. It's ongoing application of what we know to be true, which isn't as sometimes that's hard because it feels really good to just be in the lifeboat and go, let's just keep talking about that time years ago.
Well, I think that's true. And I'll let Kelly finish. Like that idea of like, I think so many times when we prepare for stuff like that, we think, well, we're taking God there. and we're going to
put him in my backpack.
That is a good way to describe it.
We're going to take God there, and
God's not there, but we're going to bring him.
We're going to show them how, and God is already at work.
Yes,
it may not be the way that you saw, and that's probably some of the biggest friction, right? Like, wait, this doesn't match, but God's still working, and oh man, what a good reminder that is that He's at work, and if you're willing to be teachable and moldable, and I think the Bible talks about that a lot.
Yes.
He's gonna
adaptable.
He's going to he's gonna show you and just impress upon you, man, he's so much bigger than your view was.
For sure.
Yeah. I can attest. I mean, yes, I've had those mountaintop experiences, especially when I was younger.
Yeah.
And hey, look at me, look what I did, right? I vividly remember, it was probably, maybe 20 years ago. I can't remember if I had kids yet. Just feeling a heart change. And I think a heart change of just, God, help me to see what you see. And show me what I can do, and I think that has just been, since that point, a lifelong journey. And I think serving and mission trips, it's not about that in time experience, but it's just a point in an experience in my timeline, I guess. It's just part of me now. And that's what I try to tell people is let it change your heart and who you are, I guess, and how you live out your life.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, and I think that is. I think keeping that in perspective that, man, God worked in me there. He still wants to work in me here. And how do I continue to carry that?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be another marker high. If you get that chance,
sure,
awesome.
Yeah.
But man, the God that worked in you then is still the same that's calling you now to the things that you're doing, because those things just prepared you for what you do now with everything that you do at the church and in our community and for the moving that you've done, through the course of your husband's time and your time in the military and the armed forces. It's set. I think I believe it's prepared you well to be the preparer of engagement that you are.
That's good.
So
yeah.
Did you have anything in close?
No, I just want to tell you guys thank you. It's been awesome. These last
Thanks
two
for
episodes
having
are
us.
good. And I would say there could probably even be some future ones of just talking through, hey, how do I help a person, like toxic charity, and how do I help a person
Oh,
in this
man.
like there's
Very
just bigger
good.
conversations
Yeah,
around this. This
absolutely.
was kind of more of like, hey,
Introduction
church,
time,
introduction stuff. And so I think down the road there can be some
No,
future
I would
ones of
agree.
just how do we navigate that on an individual level? Church level, here's what we're doing, but individually, how do we be that outreach focused in our own lives?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think this stuff was, I think it's
Awesome.
great. And as a church, I'm going, man, I've got some options in front of me. I can be part of some global stuff and be part of some local stuff. You don't really have an excuse anymore because you
No.
heard it.
No, I would encourage you, stop these ladies on the weekend and say, hey, help me out. You can get a hold of them at the office, and they usually do a pretty good job of responding in a timely manner.
We love
of
coffee.
getting back to you.
Usually.
I'm going to go with all the time.
We're pretty good. If I
yeah.
do say so myself. I feel
Sorry,
like we're-
toot. Is that what's going on here?
I love
We're
talking.
pretty
So
good.
if
Yes,
somebody
we know
needs
that.
to have
Yes,
coffee, it will
yes.
happen very
Absolutely.
soon.
Cool.
Well, very cool. Well, thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
ladies. Appreciate your time and your hearts for what you do, and excited about, man, what's coming around the corner. So thanks again.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we
Thanks,
go.
guys.